Hello, I'm Brian Fox. Welcome to I Hate Rock Music. And this video is going to be about a very, very obscure band, Poet and the One Man Band. And I remember picking up this record in cutouts. It was on Paramount, and the album came out in 1969. It came out on Verve Forecast in Germany. I'm surprised it didn't come out on Verve Forecast in the U.S. It came out on Paramount in the U.S. And the album was produced by Eddie Offord, who's quite well known now, of course, working with bands like Yes, and actually working with Head, Hands, and Feet. And that's the important thing here is I was a Head, Hands, and Feet fan by about 1970, 71. I got the first double album and then got tracks, and both on Capitol. Just still love those records. I still think Head, Hands, and Feet are one of the great undiscovered British bands of all time. Just a massive amount of talent and a lot of known quantities in the UK that ended up being in this super group that kind of mined some territory like Americana with the band, and there's a lot of country influenced things. There's a lot of folk influenced things, and then these beautiful orchestral ballads by Tony Colton and great guitar playing by Albert Lee. So anyway, I ended up picking up this record, and I was amazed when I looked at the back of it and found out that basically it has everything to do with Head, Hands, and Feet. In some respects, is a first Head, Hands, and Feet record. And I know there's an actual unreleased Head, Hands, and Feet album from 1969 called Coming Home that has since been released. I think it came out on CD about 20 or 30 years ago. But this is another missing piece of that whole puzzle, and it's amazing how much kinship it has to Head, Hands, and Feet because Ray Smith, Pete Gavin, Albert Lee, Tony Colton, and Mike O'Neill all became members of Head, Hands, and Feet, and all are on this record. One thing that separates it from the Head, Hands, and Feet records is that Tony Colton does all the singing on this record, and so it kind of leans towards a lot of his lush orchestrated ballads. But there's definitely some roots rock Americana things that Head, Hands, and Feet started mining very aptly coming after this. But those elements are already present on this record. We also have Nicky Hopkins playing some keyboards on the album, so some definite heavyweights. And then Pat Donaldson and Jerry Donahue also were in the Poet and the One Man Band. I think Pat Donaldson ended up in Fotheringay. Um, but Poet and the One Man Band, it's kind of as obscure as they get. I'm not sure what kind of fans are going to enjoy it. I think Tony Colton has a absolutely gorgeous voice and a great lyricist. And these lush ballads that he does are really wonderful. And he continued to do those in Head, Hands, and Feet. And sometimes it felt a little incongruous to have these roots rock Americana uh, material kind of rooted in things like the band, and then have these incredible orchestrated, sweeping ballads by Tony Colton. But in the end, it totally works for me, and I have nothing but respect for Tony Colton. Incidentally, Tony Colton is also the guy that produced the first Taste album, so I think he did the second one as well. But this is also some of the earliest work by Albert Lee, who, of course, is a completely legendary British guitar player now. So to have this record by him in 1969, his guitar work is definitely a little more restrained and subtle in the mix compared to, for example, the Head, Hands, and Feet records, but it's still in there, and I think it's a pretty advanced record for 1969 that really delivers the goods, and it's really nice to hear Tony Colton actually sing on the whole album because he just has such a beautiful, one of a kind voice. And so for me, this is a real treasure to have this record, and it fits in nicely with my Head, Hands, and Feet collection. And if you're curious about Head, Hands, and Feet, I also did a video about them. Truly amazing UK band and a great story. And so check them out as well. But Poet and the One Man Band, really special, little obscure little record that I think everybody should have in their collection. I'm Brian Fox. Thanks for watching I Hate Rock Music.